And hello everyone, and welcome back to my latest commentary of a game played in 1958 by Wang Jiayuan against the legendary Grandmaster from Heilongjiang, Grandmaster Wang Jialiang, who is also known as the Northeast Tiger. Grandmaster Wang was born in 1932 and is one of the beacons of Xiangqi, modern day Xiangqi today. He has many achievements to his resume, and they include coming in at second place in the 1956, 57 and 59 Chinese National Xiangqi Championships. He has also been in the top 6 positions many times up till the 1980s when he retired. Grandmaster Wang stands at 1.91 meters, and because of his extremely powerful frame, he has also been a basketball player and also proficient in many other sports. He is also an expert in Wei Qi, Mahjong, etc., and has authored many books in Xiangqi which are considered to be classics. The Grandmaster is also the Shifu to Zhao Guorong, Wang Lina, Guo Liping, etc., and he's simply a legend in Northeast China and in the world of Xiangqi today. So let's begin with the game that was played in 1958. It was a provincial and city friendly, and Wang Jialiang's opponent, Wang Jiayuan, hailed from Tianjin and was one of the Xiangqi experts there. Together with Ma Quan and Ma Guoliang, the three were collectively known as the two horses and the king from Tianjin. So Wang Jiayuan was a powerful Xiangqi player in his own right, and he did participate in the preliminaries for the National Individual Championships in 1957 and 1958, but just failed barely to make the tournament. In this match, red was Wang Jiayuan, who started with the central cannon, and the Grandmaster replied with the screen horse defense. And the Grandmaster chose to play the elephant. In this case, one thing to note is that by default, or most people will consider starting the game with c2 equals to 5, but sometimes c8 is equal to 5 is started just to try to make the opponent less familiar or with a symmetrical position. But this method of playing c8 equals to 5 as the first move was also found in the ancient manuals. Now back to the game. In the 1950s, e7 plus 5 was a very fashionable variation to play. However, modern day Xiangqi has seen that black would prefer to move c8 plus 4 in this manner and continue with the dreaded double pawn rank cannons variation. If black were able to get to this position, red's space would be compressed, and a very complicated situations would occur where it would be very hard for red to try to gain any advantage. And this variation is still shunned by many players, especially for red. Okay, back to the game. Master Wang Jialiang chose to play e7 plus 5, and red replied with I8 plus 6 for the pawn ranked chariot. In modern day Xiangqi, it would be more common for red to use the to move the pawn rank cannon with c2 plus 2 instead. In this manner, red would have a very steadfast position, and where he would slowly develop his pieces for attack. A commonly seen line would be as follows. And this will lead to a very complicated situation, but both players will still have their chances. Now, after c2 plus 2, another possible variation by black, instead of r9 equals to 7, would be to push the pawn forward as a exchange. Once the pawn is pushed forward, if red captures the pawn, the might of the riverbank cannon will be decreased, and this variation is more commonly seen nowadays, and it will have its own rules of engagement. Now back to the match. Red chose to advance his chariot past the river as a pawn rank chariot, trying to limit the space that Black could develop for his right flank. And the Grandmaster continued with h3+4 for the riverbank horse variation. Now at this point, this variation by Black is considered to be one of the more aggressive forms of one of the more aggressive variations in Xiangqi today. And there are many ways and many treatises to play the game. They are shown in many different treatises. Red continued by advancing his central pawn forward, and which was one of the more preferred ways of playing this variation back in the 1950s. At this point, both players have finalized their opening variations, and Red has chosen the central cannon with pawn rank chariot, while Black has chosen the screen horse defense with the riverbank horse variation. p5+1, as mentioned just now, will be regarded as a direct attack on Black's central file, and it was quite fashionable to do so back in the past. Other more commonly ways of playing this position instead of advancing the central pawn would be c2 equals to 1. This variation shown here is from Qi, and is considered to be one of the more commonly seen ways that the variation is played nowadays. And as can be seen, although the red horse was forced to be retreated, Red could not develop his horses from this flank, and it will still be a very complicated situation, but so far the results will be quite okay for Red in this instance. Now back to the game. In the match, after pushing the central pawn forward, the Grandmaster chose to be aggressive with b3+1. This will be a continuation of the riverbank horse variation, whereby once the pawn is pushed forward, it will attack the red chariot. There are many ways to counter and have been studied extensively in various opening manuals. In this instance, Red chose to continue with r equals to 6, and Black continued. He chose to sacrifice or trade horses in this manner. It's one of the more aggressive ways to play this variation, and h4+3, or using the horse to attack the pawn, will be another possible option, which is shown here. And Black will still have a playable game, and while Red will be attacking Black's central file, Black will be applying pressure on this flank and also on the horses to impede the development of the red horses. And back to the game. After trying to trade horses, Red refused and pushed and linked his horses at the central file. This was considered to be one of the moves that lost the game for Red, because after making this move, Red's entire left flank would be empty and very prone to attack by Black. And instead of h7+5, Black should have chosen to trade horses with r6-1. And as long as Black's cannon and chariot are pinned to this line, the solitary pawn cannot do much to threaten the black pieces. So Red will still have a slight advantage in this situation. So r6-1 should have been played, but Red chose to link his horses at the central at the central file. And it was at this time that the Grandmaster started a series of offers to sacrifice material. He began with c2 equals to 3. This is one of the trademarks of Grandmaster Wang Jialiang's play. A very aggressive, no nonsense, and very tightly played position by the Northeast Tiger. For the weak of heart, instead of c2 equals to 3, a possible option for black would be to trade horses in this manner. And black can be very satisfied with this situation on the board. But the Grandmaster chose to be aggressive with c2 equals to 3. This would be, red would think that it would be a good move, so as it would not only prevent the red elephant from being captured, red would also get to develop his horse and even threaten with an elbow horse checkmate. However, because of making this move, red would in fact have further weakened his position, and then the match would deteriorate very rapidly for red from here on. Another sacrifice by the Northeast Tiger. It's very good. It's a very good move in this situation. And a third sacrifice, even though the red cannon was attacking the black chariot. So we can see why the Northeast Tiger has earned his nickname. Although it would be a trade, but by doing so, black would have increased his chances of attacking. A fourth sacrifice. And seeing that the red horse was a major threat, the Grandmaster decided to capture the horse instead. It was another very bold move by the late Grandmaster, the Grandmaster, sorry. And the fourth sacrifice, although the pawn had made four moves to move to its current position, black still chose to sacrifice it, as he was prepared to attack the flank with c3 equals to 1 and with the chariot in place and try to gain back lost material. Black just refused to give red any chance of adjusting his defensive formation, and there was simply no breather that was given to red. At this point, red chose to play c8 minus 2 to prevent black from moving c3 equals to 1. One might wonder what would happen if red chose to continue and capture the black central pawn instead. And black would have a winning position. The black would have managed to concentrate 3 pieces on red's left flank, and there was only one cannon that was protecting against the onslaught of these 3 black pieces. So it would just be a matter of time before red would fall. Now back to the match. Instead of capturing the pawn, red tried to defend by retreating his cannon to the bottom rank. And at this point, black deftly chose to change the target of his attack, and he will now take aim at the central file. So red will still not dare to capture the pawn, or black would immediately answer with c7 equals to 5 and to threaten to capture the red chariot. the red chariot would not be able to move, as black would have a threat to checkmate here with r3 plus 8. So the red decided to retreat his chariot and to fortify his cannon rank. And another sacrifice by black. This play will exemplify the ferocity of the Northeast Tiger. It will also demonstrate how far he had already calculated ahead. So at this point it was basically black's game for the taking. Check, check, and the following moves would be, in my humble opinion, a textbook example of using a discovered attack. So we shall see what black did. Check, and after making this move, red resigned because black was now applying a check on the red king and also threatening to capture the red chariot at the bottom corner, which had not moved at all in the entire game. Red would be sure to lose material, as he can only defend with a5 equals to 6 or r8 equals to 6, and losing a chariot at this point would be simply too much, as was simply too much for red. So red did resign and black won very easily. The past few moves are a very brilliant example of a discovered attack or discovered check by black. And this would lead us to the end of this short commentary. This commentary was published in Qi in a series of articles which whereby the editorial board chose 50 of the best played or brevities in the history of Xiangqi over the past 50 years. And I thank you for listening to my video, and I thank you for all the continued support and encouragement that I have been receiving for the past few weeks. Thank you.